Take down the COVID mask. We're going to go ahead and rebuild the side heads. You're going to want to do this when they're hot. The material is too hard to clean up when it's cold. You're either going to take them right off the extruder and start to rebuild them right away, or have some sort of a mechanism to heat this up, a hot plate or something. It's kind of a hot, messy, sticky job. But when these seals down in here, they start leaking, and you start getting a ball in there about the size of a grape or a marble, it's time to replace the seals. Of course, keep in mind this is going to be about 200 degrees and hot and sticky. All right, we'll get our 4 corner bolts out. And we pull the bell housing off. We're going to break loose the jam nut on the bell housing. And we're going to back the stop bolt out. I take it completely out. We're going to pull the air cylinder out, and I'll pull the nozzle adapter out. Just kind of twist and pull. When you go to replace the seals in here, it is not necessary every time to do a complete rebuild on the heads. What you could have are just the 6 components that make this up, setting on the shelf. You could literally do this on the machine, pull this apart just like this, replace the stem seal, and put it back together. While you have it apart, inspect the end of the stem to make sure there's no damage to it. Over time, it'll start to stick down into the seat. We just want to be careful that we're not getting a ring around here where it is getting stuck in the seat. But these 6 components are the nozzle adapter itself, the insulator, the O-ring, there's a snap ring, stem seal retainer, and stem seal down inside here. Get the cheater glasses so I can see. That might help things out just a little bit. Yeah, this snap ring's been in and out a few times, seen better days. Used for demonstration purposes. Now, your stem seal retainer is not going to just fall out like that. It's going to be packed in there with a bunch of sealant. But it is threaded in here. You can use a standard 5/16 bolt, thread into that, and use a bolt to pull that out. And the stem seal is still in there. I can use an old stem or a brass drift to poke that out. There's your stem seal. It's a cup seal. When we insert the new one, we want to put the open end in so it's facing the material. That way when the material comes up, it spreads that seal out, seals it off. I've seen guys build this, put them in backwards, and wonder why they're leaking again. As part of the disassembly there, we also have our seat, which is still in here. So we can take a brass drift, or again, we can use an old stem, and we can tap this down through here. Try to catch it as it comes through. And that's our seat. The stem goes down into the seat, seals it off. When the air cylinder pulls back, it opens this up and allows material to flow down to the nozzle tips. Over time, these get worn, these get damaged. The stem will stick into the seat. You may notice when it goes to open, one side will open before the other. It could be that that stem is getting stuck in the seat, a little bit hard to pull out, which may indicate that you need to rebuild that. Next, we need to put our new seal in. When we get a new seal, we're going to pack it with some Vaseline. Again, open end in first. Pencil works nicely for this to help insert it. I'm just going to put it over the pencil. Open end in first, down towards the material. Kind of push it in, wiggle it around, pull your pencil out. And then the stem seal retainer slides down in here. And you press that in all the way. Oh, and by the way, after you take it apart, you got a lot of cleaning to do. You want to get all the old butyl off of there. So we slide the new snap ring down in there. And did have a bolt here somewhere. Thread your bolt in, and you can pull the stem seal retainer back out, which will allow the snap ring to pop into the groove. The stem seal retainer does slide back and forth. There's probably about, maybe 1/8 of an inch of room in there. It will rattle back and forth. When the material pressure comes up, it's going to push against the steel and the stem seal retainer and push it back against the snap ring. Next, we have to put in our new seat. So again, using a pencil, I'll take the new seat. I'm going to put a drop of Loctite on either side, blue Loctite. I'm going to get it pressed into place there. I'm going to use an extension from a 3/8 socket. That's perfect outside diameter, so I'm not damaging the center of the new seat. And I'm going to tap this down in here. I'm going to listen to the tone, okay? I'll hear it tap, 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 thump when I bottom out. I want to make sure I'm bottomed out all the way. And then we can go ahead and take our rebuilt nozzle adapter. Anti-seize around here. And I want the hole facing up. The bottom head is very similar. The only difference is this is going to be kind of in a vertical position with a little different style head, but the nozzle adapter is the same. I want the hole facing out. That way I have a sight area. I can view in here and look to see if the seals are leaking. On the bottom nozzle assembly, gravity is your enemy. Because as that starts to leak, it's going to leak down and set on top of your air cylinder. And as the air cylinder works back and forth, it's going to start to draw that sealant into the air cylinder. And that's going to gum up the air cylinder on the bottom. More so on the bottom than on the sides. You may have issues where you got to rebuild it because you get butyl up into the air cylinder itself. The air cylinder itself, we want to take this apart. When you get the rebuild kit, these new seals for the air cylinder are included. So we'll take the set screws out of either side of the piston here. And there's one in the end. Pull the old stem out. When you put your new stem in, remember we had the set screws that went in against the side of the stem. They go into this flat area. Don't know if you can see that on here, but you do have a little flat. What I want to do is I want to bring the set screws in until they just touch that flat. I don't want to tighten them, but I want to bring them in until they just touch that flat. Bring them in on each side, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the screw in from the end and tighten that up so that it slides the screw all the way up to the end of that flat area. It puts all 3 screws into a bind. The reason that's important is eventually with this opening and closing, one of these screws could work loose. If one of the screws works loose, the other 2 screws will hold it in position. It can't move anywhere. If I'm somewhere in the middle and it loosens up, then this can slide back and forth in that flat area. And what that will do is it will cause the head to be sluggish opening. The material will have to actually push the stem out of the way, so it'll be very thin at the beginning. Then the shutoff should be pretty good. But you'll see a thinning at the beginning on the sides. So we'll take our new stem, slide it in here. Again, look to see where the flats are. Blue Loctite on the threads, just a drop. Or green, which is a high temp removable. I'll bring that in until it just touches. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. Again, set screw on the end, Loctite on the threads. We take this in. I'm going to take this all the way down. And I'm going to tighten that up a little bit until all 3 of these screws are in a bind. Sometimes it helps to hold the piston so it doesn't spin with the other Allen wrench. Now they're tight. I tighten the sides. And tighten the bottom. Or the top, as it is. So that's the proper way of putting the stem back in there. So again, got a little Vaseline on the seal, a little bit on the stem here when you put this back in. We slide this back in. Orientate the holes so that it's appropriate for the operator side, non-operator side, whichever the airlines are going to. Put our 4 corner bolts in. If you should break a bolt off or have to replace one, you don't have one that size, you can use a piece of 1/4 inch all thread. Just make sure that it's long enough to go at least 3 or 4 threads into the base and have enough on the top where you can put a nut and a lock washer. Sometimes it'll get you out of a pinch. It's not I think it's like about a 5.5 inch bolt. It's not a real standard size common bolt that you're going to have laying around. As you tighten these up, tighten them up like the lugs on your wheel if you're replacing the tire. All right. I want to go kind of in a crisscross pattern so that I'm coming down evenly on this. If I'm not coming down evenly on the nozzle adapter, I could have it off at an angle, which could cause the stem to be kind of sluggish opening and closing. Could put it into a bind. We take our stop bolt. We're going to put our stop bolt in. The reason I took the stop bolt out is just in case there was any difference in the way it was set up. I don't want to take and run the new stem down into the new seat and damage it, because that stop bolt would hit up on the top of it and press that down in. That's the reason I took this out completely. Take this, run it all the way in until it just stops. Again, don't force it. Okay. And again, looking at it like the face of a clock, we want to open it 1 1/4 turns. Lock down the jam nut, and it's ready to go.